like 75, the war in Vietnam was ending, and I said to my mom, I'm joining the Marines. And I had planned to do that from the time I was about 10. My military occupational specialty is 0302, infantry officer, and that's my birthday, March 2nd, 0302. So I was born to be a Marine.
I first met Tim in college at Texas A&M in a bar called the Dixie Chicken. He seemed to have a very strong personality.
So my call sign has always been Mad Max because I was always mad anyway. Max was my last name, and Mad is what I always am, so people always call me Mad Max.
His deployments before his injuries were varied. The very first deployment, we had just been newly married. The last deployment, we certainly had a number of years of experience. It had been his 6th deployment. The kids were a little bit older. They were at an age where they understood a little bit more, so it was more difficult for them.
We flew over directly to Kuwait, and from Kuwait we launched up to a place called Kasu, about 30 miles south of Baghdad. I was just been promoted to lieutenant colonel. I'm an operations officer, we call it an OPSO, and my job there being an operations officer was we were not prepared for that. Our staff was very small, no armored vehicles. We needed to get vehicles, we had no machine guns for defense, we had none, so we needed to get some of those. We had no night vision devices. There was no concrete, there was no security on this base camp we were on. So we got mortared all the time, 2, 3, 4 times a week. A very small staff, about 6 guys at a time for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it was pretty intense. So I said my little prayer to God, said if I could just make it 3 months, because in 3 months I knew things were going to change, we're going to have concrete built on that. And I was hit 3 months and 7 days later. I remember the day we just opened a new office space with concrete top, bottom, side, totally safe, no mortar could punch through the thing. And I just moved to a new tent. So I'm swinging by the new tent. My task is for myself to take a power nap. After taking a lunch, I took a power nap so I can wake up and be more energetic. I took off my flak and helmet, left all my clothes and boots and everything on. The first one hit me. If the first one hadn't hit me, I would have, first thing is put on my flak and helmet. It was the first round of impact of probably 12, 15 rounds, I guess. I was up and walking when the mortars were still landing. I remember walking outside the tent, and I remember falling down. And then I woke up about 10 days later.
I received a phone call about 6 o'clock in the morning from his commanding officer, letting me know that he had been hurt. And I think that call was unexpected. In all of our pre-deployment preparations, I think we had planned for the worst case scenario. We had never planned for injuries. So I didn't know what to expect. And I flew to Landstuhl. The bus pulled in and I watched as men were being evacuated off the bus on stretchers, and there was one that was ambulatory. And I waited for Tim to come off and saw him. It was an immense mixture of feelings. It was relief and it broke my heart to see him that vulnerable and that wounded.
From Baghdad, I flew to Germany. From Germany, I flew to Bethesda. I don't remember none of that. Then I remember waking up a little bit when the doctor was looking in my eyes. Not much. But that's kind of when I knew. As I recall, that's kind of when I knew something bad had happened. Initially, I was handicapped. I couldn't talk at all. So I have no skull on this side. I have shrapnel everywhere. My brain had just been blown up, and they didn't even have a helmet for me. When I got to Richmond VA, they also didn't have one, so they gave me a football helmet. Richmond VA was supposed to be a top-notch TBI center. It wasn't back then. It is now, but back then it was a torture zone. So I sat in my bed crying for 2 hours. First time I remember crying. 2 hours sobbing. What am I doing here? Pretty tough times. You know, you don't need more tough times. You got enough tough things happen, like Tim might die. He didn't die. He might never talk again. Or he's talking. He may never walk again. He's walking. This is a battle. And then you add that to the fact they send you to the hospital because they choose it, ignoring the fact that your wife and kids. Pretty weak. I mean, it's a battle. It's a hell of a battle.
The recovery process is long and it's challenging. But there are huge rays of hope interspersed within the recovery. So you grasp onto those.
General Amos, who's currently the commandant of the Marine Corps back then, General Amos started asking me to go with him and visit one of the guys. And so as I continued to do my training at Wilmington, I started finding something to do. He gave me a mission, was to visit one of the guys.
As soon as Tim could get into a wheelchair, he was wanting to go visit with other wounded. His leadership was amazing. It was still intact, and it was contagious. Semper Max evolved out of the legacy that was established with the Wounded Warrior Barracks, and that was the idea of togetherness, team healing.
We're trying to recreate the barracks, but mobile. Once they come there, it's surrounded not in the shopping center, down in a quiet, calm, outdoors type place, and they're surrounded by other guys who've seen combat, have their experiences. It's the best medicine in the world. Better than any kind of drug you can sell, and we have a hard time selling that. People don't get that. Even if there's no physical injury, a high percentage of veterans, war veterans, come home from their deployment and their wife get divorced. It happens all the time. So really, you're just lucky that they hang with you if they do, which Shannon did. She's crazy to stay with me. She was done me years ago.
There have been times through the recovery where there have been emotional voids. There have been times where Tim and I both could have taken the easy way out, but we made a commitment a long time ago, and I find that he takes my breath away still today. I can't imagine not being with this man.